News viewers, welcome to Tigray Television's English news live on your television screens and on our social media platforms, YouTube and Facebook. I am Salome Tigrai. Here are today's news. UNICEF reported that 210,000 civilians in Tigray had been displaced since resumption of hostilities in August. Head for Bureau of Communication Affairs Radai Halifom says the number of displaced in Tigray is far beyond what the UN agency had reported. In its stay with Tigray Television this afternoon, the Bureau had stated that UNICEF's report was only focused on northwestern Tigray. Abil Tsagabu has more.
In his brief stay with Tigray Television, head for the Bureau of Communication Affairs, Radai Halifom said the magnitude of newly displaced people in Tigray is far beyond what UNICEF reported on Saturday. In its report on humanitarian situation in Ethiopia last week, the UN agency said more than 210,000 people have been newly displaced in Tigray since the resumption of hostilities in August.
I think this report is only from Shira, from Adidaro and its environs. It doesn't include the places in eastern Tigray, in southern Tigray, or in other places that these aggressors are occupying. So one of the targets, what they are doing, these forces, is just to displace Tigray, the whole people of Tigray.
Radai said Eritrean forces and allies are fighting to displace more than 3 million people just in this round of fighting, adding that behind the bombardment of civilian residential area was to displace people from their homeland.
As their plan is to displace more than 3 million Tigrayans from their homeland. The situation, even before the resumptions of this war, millions of Tigrayans were displaced. Only from the western Tigray, there were 1 million displaced people in Tigray. So now the situation is extremely aggravating. Every day there is displacement. Whenever they bombard or they attack or strike by artillery or drones, their target is just to displace people. So the situation is not simply a crisis, it's really a severe catastrophe.
The Bureau head also stated that the new round of invasion has brought health care and nutrition system in Tigray to a near collapse. He said the people of Tigray are suffering in the eyes of the world.
People didn't have food even before the resumptions of this war. They didn't have health care services even before the resumptions of this war. Now, an additional crisis is already added to this severe situation. So the whole of Tigray is under extreme catastrophe. So I can say this: even if it is really the world catastrophe really captures the whole suffering of the people of Tigray by now, it's beyond the words that we know. It is beyond the experiences that we know. Because under this, I can say, modern world, the people of Tigray are extremely suffering in the eyes of the world. The world know everything, as I said in the introduction, but had nothing to save the people of Tigray.
UNICEF included in its report that humanitarian response to new and existing displacements in Tigray remains constrained, where restrictions on the movement of humanitarian supplies, cash, fuel, and staff continue to limit intervention programs. The report also said access to primary health care in Tigray for children and lactating women has shown a sharp decline of 84%.
2 civilians killed in an aerial attack on a farmland. The airstrike was conducted by Ethiopian Air Forces on the 26th of October in the district of Ndabat Ahma in central Tigray. Our reporters spoke with residents of the area who said they found bodies dismembered and farmlands destroyed. Our reporter Sablor Kalama has more on this.
Airstrikes on towns and villages in Tigray have become a constant occurrence following the resumption of the war around the end of August, characterized by civilian deaths and destruction on their properties. On October 26, a fighter jet belonging to the Ethiopian government hit on a farmland in Ndachawa vicinity of Ndabat Ahma district, central zone of Tigray, killing at least 2 civilians and injuring several more. Witnesses of the airstrike say they had witnessed dismembered bodies of victims on their ranch.
نحن زي حسونا استنتنايو It came to us at a shop that in October 26, around 12:30 noon, an airstrike took place around this area. 2 women have died near the church here. I've seen many wars in my lifetime, but I've never seen anything like this before.
We didn't think that this would ever happen. We were sitting around this area, and that was when the fighter jet came and hit. I saw a woman's body totally dismembered. She was beheaded. Another woman's leg was cut off. This is such a horrible atrocity. How can I possibly describe it?
There are 2 women who died where we found their bodies dismembered, and another woman's leg was cut off during the attack. She's now in the hospital.
We were sitting at home, but my sister wanted to go out to fetch water. However, the strike hit her on her house's threshold. As a result, 2 innocent civilians died out here.
Residents of the area and witnesses of the airstrike say the attack targeted a farmland ranch and is endangered on the top of the already existing man-made starvation.
It's a fighter jet that came and attacked. We have never thought that this atrocity would happen to us. Our crops are destroyed now. All the plants, corns, wheat, stuff, and other grains we cultivated are completely ruined. We don't know what we're going to eat afterwards.
All of the plants and grains we cultivated here, all the efforts we put on them is completely destroyed. We didn't even have fertilizers this year, and yet we lost the little we had. This is heinous.
We plowed this area, sowed and weeded it, all for this jet to destroy it alone with all our effort.
Such horrific accounts of airstrike that targeted civilians and their properties has continued to be the norm of the war on Tigray, while the international community watches idly by.
In a statement issued on Monday, the Global Society of Tigray Scholars and Professionals warned that failure of peace talks in South Africa will spell the eradication of the people of Tigray. The society warned that recent invasion of Tigray undermines the safety of civilians and is intended at dislocating and depopulating major towns in the region. The association also pointed out that the ethnic cleansing campaign that mirrors that of Western Tigray that has been undertaken recently in Southern Tigray by Amhara Fano and militia aiming at a forcible expulsion of Tigrayans from their homes, which was accompanied by mass incarceration of those Tigrayans that remained and looting of all their properties. In light of this, the society stressed the need for a peaceful end to the genocidal war waged against the people of Tigray and called on all actors in the negotiation to take measures to ensure the success of the ongoing peace talks. The society noted that failure of talks will only facilitate the overall eradication of a population of more than 7 million Tigrayans and disintegration of Ethiopia. Eritrean prisoners of war say government continues to force citizens into the war on Tigray. The prisoners of war state that the Eritrean government was torturing and arresting those who refused to join the military. Abraha Gabretensay has more.
Eritrean prisoners of war who were captured by Tigrayan forces at Mariam Shawito front, southeastern of Adwa town, say that they were forced to join the invading army and fight against Tigrayan forces allying with Ethiopian defense forces. The prisoners say Eritreans are sacrificing their precious lives in an unjust war in an attempt to invade Tigray's territory that belongs to the sovereign state of Ethiopia.
I'm a father of 7 children. I left Eritrean army 7 years ago, and I have been feeding my family working on irrigation and other agricultural activities far away from my home. I didn't want to join the fight and I was hiding in the den, but the government in Eritrea would lock our homes while keeping our children outside, take our cattle and arrest our children. I had to go and secure my family by joining the Eritrean army and fight against Tigray. This is the story behind every Eritrean soldier. You can do anything to save your children. We are forced to come here. I'm 56 years old and I was out of military service for more than 7 years because of illness. But this time, I was forced to come into a battlefield in Tigray. The government in Eritrea is forcing everyone to join the army by arresting children, wife, and locking houses and taking cattle. Everyone joins the army to save his children.
The prisoners also said Eritreans do not want the fight and no one is engaged in it based on his consent, but forcefully pulled into it by the government in Eritrea.
Eritreans are peace seekers. They want to live peacefully, work and feed their children. But this war made everything impossible. Eritrean officials would tell us we have to join the army regardless of our age. They would say 50 years and 60 years old Tigrans have joined the fight and we had to do the same. They forced us to go to the battlefield in our 60s. We are not willing to participate in this war. We do not want to die in land that does not belong to us. But there is no democracy in Eritrea, and you cannot speak out what you believe as there are heavy consequences. There are many people dying for no justifiable reasons.
The prisoners also said Tigrayan fighters are sacrificing their lives to defend their land and their people, but Eritreans are dying for no justifiable reason.
Even our religion says you must sacrifice yourself to defend your land and your wife. What the Tigray doing is the right thing. They are sacrificing to defend their land. I think God is on their side as they have justifiable reason. But Eritreans are dying for nothing but invading others' land.
The whole Eritrean army is actively participating in the tense war in Tigray that has been raging for more than 2 months since its resumption in mid-August 2022, breaching the 5 months long humanitarian truce. Aid supplies into Tigray have been suspended ever since, and the lives of more than 6 million Tigrayans are on the brink now.
Subhedri International Civil Society wrote to the United Nations calling for an immediate action to stop genocide against the people of Tigray. In an open letter to the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres on Saturday, the society stated that the current situation in Tigray has all the signs of genocide and ethnic cleansing and isolation, where people with marginal resources are assured to perish for lack of food, medical supplies and shelter. Subhedri said the recent detention of hundreds of young people in concentration camp around Adugoshu by Eritrean forces and disturbing reports of extrajudicial killings of civilians in Shira and Adwa were a grim reminder of the short-lived occupation and proof that the worst is yet to come if immediate action is not taken. Subhedri called on the UN office to take necessary action to prevent more catastrophes and restore basic services and allow unfettered access to aid organizations. The society also called for independent and transparent investigations to be conducted to the crimes committed in Tigray and declare Tigray as a safeguard zone under United Nations protection, similar to what was done in Bosnia, Cyprus, Iraq, and other countries. Well, that's all for today. Thank you for tuning in. Bye for now.